Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where everyone around you is talking about one specific thing and you have no idea what they're talking about, but you feel like you have to play along because they all know it so well? You feel like, why don't I know this? So you just kind of contribute to the conversation with, yeah, I know, right? Can you believe it? This happens to me all the time, and it actually just happened recently with my wife where she was like, Brad, you're always talking about this VTSAX, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you please fill me in? And it hit me that there might be other people out there that have no idea what VTSAX is. And if you're a part of the financial independence movement or just getting out of debt, you've definitely heard about it. VTSAX is like the go-to for the FIRE community. So in this video, I'm just going to go through exactly what VTSAX is, give you a simple explanation so that you know what's going on when you hear it in conversation. I'm going to give you some alternatives just in case you don't have access to VTSAX or you can't afford it, which I'll explain in 1 second. Then when you get to the end of the video, you'll know exactly what it is and you'll be ready to rock with VTSAX. Before we dive into it, if you are new here, my name is Brad. I make videos with tips and motivation on how to get out of debt, save money, invest for retirement, and reach financial independence, all through my own personal experiences. If you're on that journey as well, I would love for you to subscribe, help me out, we'll help each other and get there together. So VTSAX is actually two things. It is a mutual fund and it is an index fund. Its official name is Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, Admiral Shares. Now the fund itself was founded in 1992, but it became part of their Admiral Share program in 2000, which I'll explain in 1 second what that actually means. But let's simply define those characteristics first. What the heck is a mutual fund? And without getting down a rabbit hole too far, a mutual fund is simply this. It's a group of stocks put together into one portfolio item, and that is it. So for example, instead of going in and buying one share of Apple and owning just Apple, what a mutual fund does is it takes stocks from all over the stock market and it puts them into one particular group. That group is called a mutual fund. So for VTSAX, the total stock market, it takes all of the companies. Right now, currently it has over 3,000 companies in its fund. It takes little shares of all of those companies at different percentages and it makes one fund, one mutual fund. So by investing in it, you get diversification across the entire stock market. Instead of saying, I own Amazon, you can now say, I own over 3,000 companies. Next, what the heck is an index fund? An index fund is really when you take a mutual fund and you use it in comparison to other broader indexes across the market. Some common ones that you're going to hear are the Dow Jones, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, the Russell. What these are collections of stocks that follow certain trends. So by VTSAX being an index fund of the total stock market, what it's trying to do is it is trying to return you a certain percentage that matches the growth of the total stock market. In comparison, if you had something like an S&P 500 index fund, that fund from that company would track the S&P 500. Simple that. However much the S&P 500 goes up in a year, that's how much that company's mutual fund wants to return you as well. So VTSAX is a mutual fund that is an index. It's a group of all the stocks in the stock market that aims to track the growth of the entire stock market over time. That's it. And these certain index funds just allow you to do what you feel comfortable doing. The main difference between the total stock market fund and the S&P 500 is that the S&P 500 tracks 500 companies, the top 500, where the total stock market, like I said, is like 3,600 right now for Vanguard. So it just gives you a little bit more diversification. And the beautiful thing is they call it self-cleansing, meaning that the top companies are going to do what they do, but when one kind of falls off, another one usually grows to replace it and takes its spot. And what we're going to see when I show you another total stock market fund from a different company, the thing that really makes them different is the percentages that each company has inside that portfolio. For example, in VTSAX, Apple might be 3.5% of VTSAX, where in another one, say in Fidelity, it might be 3.4%. So those are going to return different amounts. And we'll get to that comparison in just 1 second. As far as VTSAX's return so far, since 1992, it has returned an average of 9.74% yearly. And since 2000, it's at 6.87%. And just like anything, guys, there are some cons that come along with anything. VTSAX Admiral Shares has a minimum deposit of $3,000, meaning you cannot invest in VTSAX with Vanguard unless you have a minimum of $3,000. And not all of us have that, but it's okay. There is an awesome alternative that they provide people that don't have that $3,000 yet. If you don't have that $3,000 to invest in VTSAX, you're going to look for their ETF called VTI. It's essentially the same exact thing. You can buy it as a stock, you can buy it in a brokerage account, you can even sometimes buy it outside the country. But VTI, Vanguard Total Index, essentially is the exact same thing. The Admiral shares give you a couple other perks and some lower fees and things like that. But for the people that are under 3,000, VTI is the way to go. And the beautiful thing is if you have that housed inside of Vanguard, when you reach the $3,000 threshold in VTI, they will, in most cases, convert it right to VTSAX for you. So now we have to answer the question, why is VTSAX so popular? Why is Vanguard so popular in itself? Why is the FIRE community and every financial book you're pretty much going to read about FIRE and from the people in financial independence going to talk about Vanguard and VTSAX? I think first and foremost, when we start with just Vanguard's reputation is top notch. And not to say the reputations of others are bad, but they have changed the game for investing, especially for people like you and me that are new to investing or want a simpler approach. Vanguard is also client-owned and operates at cost. So unlike a family-owned company like Fidelity or a publicly traded company like T. Rowe, Vanguard's investors are also invested in how well Vanguard does. Now, this doesn't mean you're investing in the company of Vanguard, but what you are investing in is the success of that company. And when they say they operate at cost, they are able to offer some of the lowest funds over the long term than any other investing platforms out there. Of course, you are going to find some rare cases where some expense ratios at other companies are lower than Vanguard, but across the board, across all of their funds and all of the things they offer, they operate at about a quarter of the price of the national average. For example, VTSAX operates at an expense ratio of 0.04%. And that's some of the lowest in the game. Right now, another low one, which I want to compare to, is Fidelity's. Right now, Fidelity has a fund called FSKAX, and it is their identical fund. It is their total stock market index fund. They operate at a lower expense than VTSAX, but there's definitely some things that we need to think about. First, let's compare their sizes. VTSAX is the largest mutual fund in the world as of recording this video. It has close to $824 billion in this one fund. That's right, $823.8 billion. In comparison, Fidelity's fund is operating at $48 billion. It's a lot less. And although Fidelity offers a 0.015 expense ratio, they pay a lower dividend than VTSAX. VTSAX currently right now is paying 1.8, where Fidelity is paying 1.7. So that's something that you also are going to think about. It's not always just about the expense ratio, right? Another thing we look at is what I was talking about before with these different allocations. For VTSAX, the top 10 companies that they hold account for 18.9% of the total portfolio. Where in FSKAX, their top 10 operate at 17.79. Now, does this really affect things? Not really. If you look at the graphs for both of these companies, they return pretty much the same amount. And their top 10 holdings are virtually identical. They shuffle a little bit with their 7, 8, and 9 currently, but they're still the same top companies. I think when choosing between the two, it really comes down to who do you like to work with? Are you a Vanguard person or are you a Fidelity person? It's really one half dozen of the other. You can do your research, But Vanguard's VTSAX right now is tops because of its size, its reputation, the fact that it is client owned and operates at cost. All of these things kind of factor into the popularity of VTSAX. For those of you that follow along know that VTSAX is close to my heart. It is the only thing in my Roth IRA, my wife's Roth IRA, my 403b, my wife's 403b. I've been happy with it so far, but please do your own research. Don't do just what I do, right? Use this as a platform to go learn some more information and make all the investing decisions that you would like to make. I'll leave a video about more investing tips for beginners, and down here I'll give you a little recap of exactly what the FIRE movement is. Until I see you on the next one, guys, stay positive, work really, really hard. Always please be kind to others. I hope you have yourself an amazing day and a better tomorrow.